Hey everyone, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. And if you're new, we'd love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. President Donald Trump called the strike a spectacular military success. During the operation, B-2 bombers dropped bunker-busting bombs on a key Iranian nuclear site. At the same time, U.S. submarines launched cruise missiles targeting other nuclear facilities in Isfahan and Natanz. 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each carrying these massive GBU-57 bunker busters weighing 30,000 pounds, took off from Whiteman Air Force Base under the cover of darkness. In total, only 12 of those bombs would be dropped, focused on Iran's Fordow nuclear facility. But the scale of the mission was unmistakable. In just 25 minutes, Iran's 3 main nuclear sites were left in ruins, without a single Iranian surface-to-air missile fired or fighter jet scrambled in response. This wasn't just a win for technology. The mission required flawless execution at every stage, from complex mid-air refueling to synchronized electronic warfare. There was zero margin for error. So how did the U.S. manage such a precise, secretive strike that left its enemies completely stunned? It starts with the B-2's biggest strength, its ability to vanish. Stealth, the mystery of the invisible bomber. The B-2 Spirit stealth isn't magic, it's an engineering masterpiece built on precision. Its flying wing design and radar-absorbing surface scatter and absorb radar waves, making it nearly impossible to detect. Its engines are buried within the wing and fitted with special exhausts to minimize heat signatures, keeping it hidden from infrared sensors. In 2 sentences, the B-2's shape and coating make it nearly invisible to radar. Its internal systems and heat management keep it out of sight from infrared detectors. At exactly 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 B-2s launched from Whiteman Air Force Base, each fully loaded with GBU-57 bombs and fuel tanks filled with 180,000 pounds of JP-8 fuel. The timing wasn't random. As the bombers began their mission, a large-scale deception campaign kicked off. Another group of aircraft flew west, mimicking an attack force headed for Guam and the Pacific. This wasn't a sideshow, it was synchronized with the real launch to create confusion. Russian and Chinese satellites tracking unusual military movements were drawn to this western flight path. Meanwhile, the real strike force turned east toward the Middle East, slipping through some of the most advanced surveillance systems in the world. But the deception didn't stop with flight paths. The decoy fleet also transmitted fake signals and communications, mimicking a real mission's electronic footprint. Analysts in Moscow and Beijing shifted their attention and resources toward the Pacific threat, leaving the eastern corridor less closely monitored. For Iran, this meant keeping its air defense radars online longer, making them easier targets for U.S. electronic intelligence, and reducing their ability to rotate fresh crews or reposition assets. Every step of the operation had to blend into a broader deception strategy. While the B-2's stealth tech prevented direct radar detection, the diversion forced adversaries to make decisions with incomplete information. Had Iranian or Russian analysts realized the true path, the mission could have been exposed. That could have triggered Iranian defenses or led to the hardening of their nuclear sites at the last second. The deception gave the strike team the time and space it needed and made defending Iran much more difficult and costly. The B-2's tech advantage goes beyond just shape and materials. Its APQ-181 radar operated in a passive stealth mode, collecting data without emitting signals that could reveal its location. Mission protocols required flat takeoff profiles to avoid heat signatures and flight paths designed to exploit gaps in satellite coverage. The bombers maintained strict radio silence, using only encrypted bursts of communication when absolutely necessary. Every detail was optimized to avoid detection, from altitude changes to course corrections over the Atlantic. The psychological effect was immediate. Iranian air defense crews were suddenly facing a very real but invisible threat. Keeping radar coverage up around the clock strained personnel and equipment, while the uncertainty forced commanders to keep all systems on alert. And Iran wasn't the only one caught off guard. Russian and Chinese analysts, misled by the decoy force, were forced to reassess their detection capabilities and response protocols. The B-2's ability to disappear pushed adversaries to invest more in anti-stealth defenses, draining resources from other priorities and leaving gaps in their broader defense systems during the mission's critical window. As the bombers pushed east, the deception held. The B-2S crossed the Atlantic undetected, moving steadily toward their entry point into the Middle East. Success up to this point had depended on a delicate balance of advanced tech and disciplined execution by the crews. But the next stage would test them in a whole new way. With thousands of miles still to go and fuel running low, the bombers faced a critical challenge: mid-air refueling at night over the open ocean, where even the smallest mistake could jeopardize the entire operation. Midnight Gauntlet refueling in the dark. For the B-2 crews, the toughest part of the mission wasn't enemy defenses. It was precision flying in the dark, far from any runway or safety net. The first in-air refueling was scheduled for around 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time, way out over the central Atlantic. This wasn't routine. In pitch-black skies, the bombers and their KC-135 Stratotanker refueling aircraft ran into unexpected winds and turbulent weather. Pilots had to bring the B-2 within 30 feet of the tanker and stay aligned just 15 feet below it, at 400 knots. Every move was deliberate, every correction scrutinized by both crews. There was zero room for error. If the connection failed or the formation slipped, the B-2 might have to abort and fly 7,000 miles back, which would compromise the entire timeline of the mission. Inside the tanker, the boom operator watched through a specialized rear window, tracking the B-2's approach on infrared cameras and sensors. He extended the boom toward the refueling port with steady hands, relying on muscle memory and visual cues. It was as demanding as it was critical. Pilots often say it's like threading a needle while riding a mechanical bull in a pitch-dark closet, and that's not an exaggeration. Turbulent winds tossed both aircraft, and with no visual cues above the ocean, it made the job even harder. A small miscalculation could break the connection, or worse, cause structural damage to either aircraft. Once connected, fuel flowed at 1,000 pounds per minute. The B-2's tanks filled steadily, every pound accounted for to ensure not just a successful strike, but a safe return. The crews operated in near-total silence. Strict radio discipline prevented detection, so most communication was through hand signals and visual confirmations. The faint glow of cockpit screens lit the pilots' faces as they monitored fuel levels and adjusted for crosswinds and slight positional changes. The technical challenge was matched by the mental pressure. Both the B-2 and tanker crews understood what was at stake. One mistake could blow the mission, expose the bombers, or leave them stranded over hostile territory. Every successful transfer was a testament to years of joint training and rock-solid coordination. This wasn't just procedure. It was a high-stakes dance honed through countless drills. Weather added more risk. Shifting air currents over the Atlantic caused sudden jolts, forcing constant adjustments from both pilots. Sometimes the boom operator had to pull back and wait for the B-2 to stabilize before trying again. These pauses raised the tension. Every extra minute at refueling altitude increased the risk of detection by enemy sensors or satellites. But thanks to the B-2's stealth design and careful management of heat emissions, the bombers stayed hidden, even during these critical moments. And this wasn't the only refueling stop. As the mission progressed, additional mid-air meetups were precisely scheduled. Each required the same level of discipline, precision, and focus. Crews rotated duties, staying sharp despite the fatigue and long night. All 7 bombers, each paired with its own tanker, completed the refueling without incident. The success of the mission relied just as much on these invisible link-ups as it did on the advanced aircraft themselves. By the time the final refueling was done and the B-2S continued eastward, the mission's secrecy was still intact. The bombers had crossed the Atlantic on a lifeline that was as fragile as it was essential. But their journey wasn't over yet. As they approached the edge of Iraqi airspace, the threat landscape changed, and a new phase of protection would begin. B-2 bombers and the final blow inside Operation Midnight Hammer. As the B-2 bombers approached the most heavily defended part of their mission, they were joined by a coordinated escort force, 4 F-22 Raptors and 8 F-35S. Each aircraft had a specific but complementary role. The F-22S flew at high altitudes, their main task being air dominance, ready to intercept any Iranian fighter jets that might pose a threat. Each Raptor carried 6 AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles and 2 AIM-9X Sidewinders, chosen for quick response aerial combat. Their APG-77 radar systems gave them early warning capability, allowing them to detect enemy aircraft from far away and form a protective bubble around the B-2s. But the F-35s weren't operating in isolation. Acting as forward sensors, they passed precise coordinates and threat assessments to support aircraft stationed just outside Iranian airspace, FA-18 Super Hornets and EA-18G Growlers. Then it happened. An Iranian S-300 battery activated its radar near the border. Within seconds, an F-35 picked up the signal and pinpointed its location. Almost immediately, an EA-18G Growler began jamming the radar, disabling the battery's ability to track targets. At the same time, an FA-18 launched an AGM-88 HARM missile from long range. The missile struck before the S-300 crew could react, neutralizing the threat and clearing the way for the bombers. This playbook repeated itself. Every time Iranian air defenses revealed themselves, the response was immediate and devastating. The true measure of the escort's success wasn't how many dogfights they... Throughout the strike, Iranian air defenses never fired a shot. No SAMs, no fighter jets. The combination of stealth, jamming, and perfect timing meant Iranian operators didn't even realize they were under attack until it was too late. The operation lasted just 25 minutes, with every stage executed in precise synchronization. As the B-2s completed their bomb runs, they turned west to rendezvous with their tankers, fully fueled, intact, and within mission parameters. The final strike demonstrated the perfect blend of cutting-edge tech strategic planning and disciplined execution. The destruction at Fordow and Isfahan wasn't just from powerful weapons, it was from the precision with which they were delivered. Iran's total lack of defensive response proved how effective stealth and electronic warfare had been. In under half an hour, Iran's core nuclear infrastructure was dismantled. Operation Midnight Hammer set a new benchmark for modern military operations. Its speed, scale, and precision reflected not just technological superiority, but the intense planning and teamwork required to pull it off without facing a single shot. In just 25 minutes, Midnight Hammer took out 3 of Iran's most critical nuclear sites, without triggering a single defensive missile. The mission's success came from the fusion of stealth precision, refueling, coordinated escort, and relentless electronic warfare. The B-2s remained undetected. The F-22s and F-35s cleared the skies, and support aircraft kept Iran blind until it was too late. Midnight Hammer proved that in future wars, it's not just firepower, but mastery of technology and human skill that will decide the